Lewis finally says something good about the car after a decent Friday. Toto Wolff gives a hint on who and when Lewis's replacement will be announced, and more insights on today's running. During the opening practice hour at the Japanese Grand Prix, Max Verstappen led a Red Bull 1-2 as Ferrari and Mercedes fought for the rest of the positions. After his retirement at the Australian Grand Prix, Verstappen bounced back and set the weekend's opening P1 with a time of 1:30.56 on the Suzuka circuit. In the session, Verstappen's teammate Perez was his closest rival. The session was temporarily halted when Logan Sargent crashed his Williams at turn 7, losing control of the car at speed and colliding with the barrier, resulting in a hard hit from the front and the rear. Carlos Sainz from Ferrari was the third fastest driver, leading a Mercedes-Ferrari sandwich with George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, and Charles Leclerc behind him. However, Leclerc was half a second slower than Verstappen's P1 timing. Fernando Alonso, with Aston Martin's old aero package, Oscar Piastri, Yuki Tsunoda, and Lando Norris completed the top 10. Meanwhile, RB test driver Ayumu Iwasa, filling in for Daniel Ricciardo for one of the team's young driver sessions, finished 16th fastest with a gap of 0.8 to Tsunoda. The second practice session for the Japanese Grand Prix turned out to be quite uneventful due to the damp conditions, which led to minimal track action as most teams chose to remain in their garages. The rain, which had started pouring down more heavily between the two practice sessions, made the second hour-long practice session quite uneventful as the teams waited for the damp conditions to clear up. This was because the weather forecast had predicted further showery conditions during the weekend, which made the allocation of intermediate tires a crucial factor as qualifying and the race approached. After about 15 minutes, Lewis Hamilton came out on the medium tire to carefully navigate around the track and set off on a timed lap before aborting as the rain started to intensify again. Daniel Ricciardo and Oscar Piastri also came out for a look, but with the conditions somewhere between dry and intermediate tires, they too returned to the pits. However, Yuki Tsunoda became the first driver to put in a lap time, clocking in a 1:40.946 on the intermediate tire with just over 20 minutes to go, putting him 0.946 seconds ahead of Ricciardo, who was on the same tire. These were the only two cars to put in a timed run until the final moments of the session. In the last 5 minutes of the practice session, the conditions turned dry enough for some slick tire running, resulting in a flurry of activity as more than half of the grid attempted a flying lap. Tsunoda, who had looked set to finish at the top and please his home crowd, was deposed by McLaren's Oscar Piastri, who clocked in a 1:34.725 to go 0.501 ahead of Hamilton's slick tire effort. A last-gasp dry tire run from Ferrari's Charles Leclerc saw him finishing third, 4 seconds down, with Tsunoda thus finishing fourth ahead of Ricciardo. During the second practice session of the Formula One Japanese Grand Prix, Lando Norris had a shaky start as he slid off into the escape area at turn 2 on his outlap. Despite this, he managed to recover and finish 6th. On the other hand, his former teammate Carlos Sainz secured the 7th place for Ferrari. The top 10 was rounded out by Nico Hülkenberg for Haas, Valtteri Bottas's Sauber, and Esteban Ocon for Alpine. Notably, some of the drivers who set the pace in the first practice session, such as Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, were unable to set a time in the second practice session. Additionally, Logan Sargent, the American driver, was unable to set a time due to his car undergoing repairs after he crashed during the first practice session. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, has issued a warning to Mercedes ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix, urging them to avoid making excessive changes to his W15 car and potentially disrupting his weekend. Hamilton had his best session with the car at Suzuka and is hoping to build on his improved performance in the previous race. The British driver has had a difficult start to his final year with Mercedes, finishing no higher than 7th in the opening 3 races of the season. His woes were compounded when he retired from the last race in Australia due to engine failure after just 15 laps. During the Melbourne weekend, Hamilton admitted that he was the least confident he had ever been with the Mercedes car. However, Hamilton showed signs of improvement during Friday's practice sessions at Suzuka. In FP1, he was classified 5th, within half a second of Max Verstappen's pace-setting Red Bull. He further improved in the afternoon session, finishing 2nd despite the rainy conditions. With the Japanese Grand Prix looming, Hamilton is hoping to continue his upward trajectory and make up ground in the drivers' standings. Lewis Hamilton, the seven-time Formula One world champion, spoke to reporters following the second practice session at the Japanese Grand Prix and shared his thoughts on the performance of his car, the W15. Hamilton stated that his car is in a sweeter spot in Japan and urged his team to avoid making excessive changes to its setup, claiming that it could mess up his weekend. He emphasized that it was a great session and was the best session that he and his team have had this year. Hamilton expressed his excitement to drive on the circuit, which he believes every driver loves. In the past few years, Hamilton has struggled with a difficult car and a difficult balance to drive on this circuit. But he is optimistic that his team has done great work this past week, and they seem to have hit the ground in a sweeter spot. Hamilton stated that he hasn't made any changes to the car since the first practice session because he thinks they have a better platform or baseline to start from. He believes as long as they don't make too many changes, they will get a good weekend. Hamilton also expressed his disappointment about the recent rule change for the F1 2024 season that led to a lack of running in FP2. Teams are no longer given extra sets of tires in the event of a session being declared wet, which Hamilton believes is a shame. He further stated that no one goes out and drives runs on the intermediate, and it just doesn't make sense to him. Mercedes has been facing a driver shortage for the 2025 championship ever since Lewis Hamilton announced his departure from the team to join Ferrari next season. Despite the fact that Mercedes had signed a 2-year contract extension with Hamilton in August last year, Toto Wolff, the team principal, has said that he won't be rushed into making a decision on whom to sign for the vacant spot. Wolff has been carefully considering various options, including Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Sebastian Vettel, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and many others who have expressed their interest in the race seat alongside George Russell. However, he has not disclosed the exact number of drivers on his shortlist. During Friday's team boss press conference for the Japanese Grand Prix, Wolff reiterated that he won't compromise on the quality of the driver he selects, even if it means losing some really good guys to rival teams. He emphasized that it's still too early for Mercedes to commit to a driver for the 2025 season, and he intends to take his time to make the right decision. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has revealed that the team has not yet made a decision about their driver lineup for the 2025 season. He stated that it's not something that they plan to decide in the next few weeks, and that the driver market is very dynamic. Some of the good drivers are about to sign for other teams. Wolff wants to continue having discussions and keep their options open. He believes that it's too early to commit to a driver, whether young or experienced. He also mentioned that the next few months will give them more clues about their options. Interestingly, Mercedes' rumored list of potential drivers includes a retired F1 driver and a rookie. The list includes 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, who recently revealed that he was talking to Wolff, although not necessarily about the Mercedes seat. Wolff said that Sebastian is someone that you can never discount, and his track record is phenomenal. He also added that sometimes taking a break is good to re-find motivation. The rookie driver on Mercedes' list is Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who is a Mercedes Junior and Formula 2 driver. According to speculation, Mercedes is waiting for Antonelli before making their final decision. The 17-year-old is set to commence an extensive F1 test program later this month. Wolff confirmed that the program of Kimi driving a Formula 1 car has been in place for a long time and that they have added more days to it. The team will use a few of these days for Kimi to get comfortable in an F1 car. In conclusion, Mercedes is keeping their options open and wants to see how the driver market plays out in the next few months before making any decisions. The team has a list of potential drivers that includes both a retired F1 driver and a rookie. It remains to be seen who will ultimately get the coveted seat in the 2025 season. The team is excited to see their young driver, Oliver Bearman, perform in the upcoming Formula 1 race in Austria. This will be his first time driving the 2021 car, and the team wants to ensure that he gets a feel for how the car performs before he transitions to the 22 car. Bearman's performance in the previous race in Saudi Arabia was remarkable, especially considering that he had no free practice and was racing on a high-speed and complicated track. Despite these challenges, he was able to compete at a high level and was among the top drivers. The team is confident that Bearman's talent and competitive spirit will translate well to the upcoming race in Austria, and they look forward to seeing how he performs. Additionally, the team is eager to watch young driver Kimi Antonelli, who has been with the team for a long time, and see how he fares in the race.